Okay, this week we are taking a little dip into the world of graphical user interfaces. It's just a little dip, okay? We're gonna set up some very simple graphical user interfaces that use buttons and labels and text boxes, and we're also gonna throw a canvas on there as well. We're gonna use JavaFX to do this, but we're not going to use any special code writing tools. Now, oftentimes when people are creating graphical user interfaces out in the wild, they'll use a drag and drop interface to create to put the components on the screen where they want them. And there's all kinds of automatic code writing tools that will generate different parts of the code for you. We're not going to do that here. We're going to keep it very simple, but we're just going to use a plain Java project and do it all in code. We're going to add all the buttons and widgets and things in code, and we're going to hook up what are called event handlers to those buttons in code as well. And the reason why we're doing it this way is because even if you do go on to eventually use an automatic system that will write a lot of the code for you, if you don't understand how the code works, if you don't understand what it means to hook up an event handler, how you position widgets and stuff like that, you're not going to be able to do anything with that code that it generates for you. You need to be able to understand it in order to be able to tweak it and modify it and make it do what you want. So we're not going to go very far, and the guide is structured around 3 tutorials. I will walk you through each tutorial in each of the 3 videos, and there are some exercises for you to try on your own. You don't necessarily need the videos. You could try just doing the written tutorials on your own and then coming into the videos as needed, or you could just walk through the video with me. I'm going to try and do it fast because I'm assuming that you are going to pause and restart if you are working along with me and you want to catch up. And I'm going to, if we take a look at the screen here, I'm going to put a little thing in the corner here that tells you what step we're on. This is a cheap way of doing it. It's easier than editing it later and putting in subtitles. I've got just a little window up here that's going to tell you what step we're on, so you can fast forward through the video to the part where you want. Okay, let me show you what we're making. We're just going to make, in this first tutorial here, part 1, we are going to make a very simple little graphical user interface. And you can make yours, we're going through this, you can make yours look a little different if you want. It's got 2 text boxes here and a button, and when I hit say it, it puts, this is a label up here, this blue strip is something called a label, and it puts hello and then whatever text I put here about hello students into that label, and if I say I want it 3 times, then it will repeat it 3 times. Okay, if I say I want 66 times, it's going to be way off the screen. See, that's a little dot 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 there. Okay, so very, very simple. What it does is we configure the graphical user interface here with a label on top. We can change, notice the colors are changed here as well. We have 2 text boxes and then a button. And I think that's all we're doing in this first tutorial. And then in the next one, we'll hook it up so that the button actually works and we can read the contents of the text field in order to do this. Okay, so that's where we're going. And now I wrote these tutorials, but I haven't taught this part of the course in a while. And I thought just for fun, I'm going to deliberately not practice it ahead of time. So I think I can do this in one shot, but we'll see. There might be some edit points. So here's what we need to do. Placing GUI components, that's the first tutorial. We need to get the FX GUI template. So in the week 7 code, if you haven't done this, you should pause and go get it. There is this thing called FX GUI template. I'm going to copy it with Control-C, and I'm going to paste it just into the source here. Where is it? Paste. And I'm going to rename it Hello App, something like that. Okay, you can rename it whatever you want to name it, but here we are. Here's my Hello App, and you'll see that it looks familiar. It's got the start method here, but we're not using it for graphics. So this section of the code is shorter. This section of the code in the GUI template and the animation template does a little bit of setup, creates a canvas, puts it on the screen, and so on. This one doesn't do that, so we're going to add our own GUI stuff here, and you can see these little to-dos throughout the code, and there's a step-by-step instructions here. You don't necessarily have to do it in exactly the steps that I'm showing you here, but I thought thinking of things in terms of these steps would make it easier. Okay, so, oh yeah, go to so that's step 1, change the name of the class. Oh, we need to run it. Control-Shift-F10, and it should pop up just with an empty box. Okay, so this is, when the main method runs here, it calls this launch method, which creates a stage, and then passes it here. We create a scene, and this thing called a root pane, and then we're going to add stuff to the root pane. So what we're seeing here is this big blank root pane. And we can configure the height and width here to whatever we want. So let's make it not as, we can change it later too, but let's make it more like the size of the window there, 200 by 300, and we'll change the title to Hello App. Okay, that's step B that we're doing here. Oops, Control-Shift F10, make sure that worked. So now we have a slightly different, I meant to do the other way. So let's change that to height 300, width 200. Run that again. That's what I want. It's not quite the shape of this, but we'll tweak it later. Okay, I forgot to change these. So we'll go to step C now. We're now in step C. Under the comment that says to create the GUI components, so right here, we're going to add 2 new text fields to this. Okay, and I'm just going to copy and paste this right out of the guide here. Okay, so the 2 text fields are going to be these two. The one for that's what this is called. This text box here where you can enter text. It's called a text field. We want 2 of them. We're going to have to do an import. So I'll hit Alt Enter here. Import class, and it should have added it to the top there. Didn't do that. Alt Enter. Oh, there we go. Class to import. Make sure you're getting the right one. There are several systems, AWT, Swing, and FX for this. Make sure that you are using the one that says JavaFX. So it's javafx.scene.control/text field. Okay. So this one, just saying text field with nothing in the brackets like that. We'll create an empty text field. This puts some default text into the text field. So notice here, so we've imported a class, and we're creating a variable for that class. Let me make this a little bit bigger. There we go. And then we call the constructor to create the text field object, and that text field object is going to get placed on the screen. We want a second one, so let's call it. I don't like field 1. Let's call this name field, and we'll call this number field. And let's put a 1 in that box, so it'll immediately say 1. Okay, here's an example of how to create a text field. Oh yeah, Appendix C at the end here. Here it is. This is a components reference for the graphical user interface. So the text field is here. These arrows here show inheritance, which is actually the topic for next week. So what you need to know is if you want to know what you can do with a text field. So here's a text field class diagram. It just has a constructor in it, which takes a text string. There is also a default constructor, but I didn't put it here. And it inherits, this arrow means it inherits from these other classes up above. So all of these methods here are also part of text field. And this one inherits from the one above. So all of these methods here, relocate, set style, request focus, these are all also available inside text field. Okay, so Appendix C for a lot of that information there. Okay, I think, whoops, wrong tutorial. I think that's part C done. Oh, no, I'm in the wrong one. Again, part C. So it just said create 2 text fields. Oh, and a button and a label. Okay, so that's why I sent you down here. The button is here. You can create a button. Again, the constructor has a text string, and the label also takes a text string. So let's create those. Button, call it the Say It button, equals new button, say it. I think that's what I originally put. Or how about let's change it. Let's make it a little bit different than the example. Talk to me. Here we go. We're going to need to import this as well. There you go. JavaFX scene control button. Alt Enter. Import the class. This one. So again, there's classes in other parts of the system that have the same name. So be careful. Make sure you're getting the right one. And then label. This is going to be the output label. This is the blue bar at the top. New label. We'll just start it with something like that. Or how about hello? We'll have it say hello initially. So again, Alt Enter when I hover over here, import class. And now we have 3 to choose from, even worse. Always just pick the one with JavaFX. Okay, so up here at the top, see we've got all these JavaFX imports. So we've created 4 objects of different types. and we called their constructor to create them with some default text. All right, I think now we've done step C. Okay, step C is done. Step D. There we go. Under the comment that says 3, add components to the root. So we skipped over number 1 for now. We'll do that later. Number 3 here, use a line like this one to add your components to the display. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in here. So this is just a little bit of magic words. See, this is the pane object that we created up here. That is, when you run this, that's the blank background that we're on. It has a method called getChildren. So the objects that are on that panel, so we're going to put two text fields, a button, and a label. Those will be its children. And there's an add-all method that lets us just list as many as we want and add them in. So name field, number field, say it button, and output label, like that. So we're going to add them all to the root. Now when we run it, we're actually going to see them. So Control-Shift-F, there it is. But the problem is they just all got plunked down on top of each other here. Okay, so we need to do something about that. We need to move them around. So now we are on step E. And this is where we configure things. And that's going to be the end of the tutorial. So we got through this pretty fast, but let's configure. Here are some examples. So the pane back here has an X and a Y location. Just like a regular canvas, X and Y 0, 0 are up here. The X's increase in this direction and the Y's increase downwards. So first thing I can do is I can relocate things. So if I want let's do a different layout than what's here actually. Let's do, the label is good at the top, but let's take the text fields. So name field dot relocate, and we'll put it at maybe X location 10, Y location, I don't know, maybe 40. And then maybe we put number field relocate. And it's okay to just do this by kind of trial and error. I don't know how wide it's going to be, but I want to put this beside it. So let's do an X of 200 and the same Y of 40. So that what that should do is put these two text fields below the label. There we go. So that's the label, the one that says hello. So they're below the label and they are next to each other. And then let's relocate the button as well. So what else do we want to do? We want to do the button. Say it button. Relocate to X equals 10, Y equals maybe 80. Like that. Let's run that again. Okay, so that's getting closer to what we want. Maybe we're going to need to do some stuff with the label. So let's do a set font on the label. So there's a bunch of examples here that you can use, and you can also go to Appendix C to see what's going on. Maybe I'll do a relocate on the label. I put everything else at X10. So let's do X10 Y Y0, and let's do a output label dot set font. So this works just like the set font that we're used to. New font. I'll just use system, but I want to make it bigger, maybe 30, like that. I'm going to need to import this class. Alt Enter, import class, JavaFX version. Let's see what it looks like now. So I relocated the output label and I made it bigger. Oh, that's kind of nice. If you want to set the style, the background color, the foreground color, other things like that, other things beyond the position and the font, you can set the width as well. So there's this set pref width that lets you set it to whatever width you want. So I can say output label set pref width. There it is. So actually, we're not going to see this until I color the background. So let's just set it to something small for now, 200. But let's do the set style. Oops. Oh, it's output label. Keep doing that. Okay, so this is CSS style properties. But as you can see, they're not quite the same as the HTML CSS properties. So they all have weird names like this: FX, background, color. And then you should be able to use regular CSS colors here. So how about crimson? I think that's a color. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. And let's do output. Oh wait, we can just do one style string here. Let's do, so if you want to set the foreground text, it's FX text fill white. Well, it doesn't have to be white, but mine's going to be white. No, you know what? Let's do silver. Silver's a kind of a light gray color, I think. Oh, it's text fill, not text file. There we go. Okay, and you can see the width of it here of 200. I think the total width is 300. Let's make it higher. Let's make it more like 600. And I started this at x10, so I'll make the preferred width 580, and I think that'll look good. So that it'll be 10 pixels from each side, from each end. There we go. And I think I need to move these guys down a little bit. So let's relocate the fields to y equals maybe 60. Take a look at that. From this point on, you're just playing with it. There we go, and we'll move the button down. Where is it? Say it button. We'll move it down to 100 just for now. Okay, good enough. We can do some other things too, like we can change the font of these fields as well if we want, and we can change their widths. So for example, the number field width doesn't need to be that wide. It's just a number. So set preferred width, maybe 50. I'll just hit Control-Shift F10 every time I change it. So you go. That makes it a little bit less wide, and we can relocate it to maybe an X of. Well, if we knew the width of the name field, here we go. Name field dot set pref width, maybe 150. Then we could relocate the number field to X of 170 maybe. Again, you can just play with these numbers to make them look the way that you want them to look. And we could also set in the name field, we could set a font. New font system, maybe 20. Oh, like that. Is it going to go? There it is. There we are. Your name here. Oh, that's not wide enough now. So let's set it to 200. Increase that by 50. So number field should go up by 50. And we should do a set font on the number field as well. There we go. Just going to move these around. So you see what I'm doing here is I'm just to organize my code, I'm trying to group things by field name. I haven't done anything with the button, the output label. But there you go. So I'll let you guys play with this on your own. Oh, I need to move my button down. I'm going to do one last thing, and then I will. So y of maybe 120, just to move it down. I feel like that button should be big now. Maybe it should take up the whole screen. Oh, let's do it. Okay, I'm just going to do that real quick. Say it button dot set font, new font system 20 again, and let's make it big. Say it button dot set pref width. Let's make it as wide as the label, which I think was 580. It's not going to look that good unless we center it, but I'll have to look up the property. Oh, it's already centered. Perfect. If I wanted to, I could change the background and stuff like that, but that's looking pretty cool. And it looks a little bit different from this one here. Now, the button doesn't do anything right now. Nothing does anything, and I encourage you guys to mess around with this and make it look the way you want it to look. But we're going to make the button do something in the next tutorial. Now, if you look at Appendix C, I think all the methods that we really needed were there in the tutorial. But you can see there's set font, there's set graphic. I believe you can put a graphic on the button. I've never really tried that. Set preferred width and height. Set style will let you style it using those CSS styles, and so on. That's all we really need. Here's the two properties that we use. That's background color and foreground color. You could set that on the other fields if you want. And I hope these are still working. So this little link here takes you to a whole bunch of CSS properties that you can try. Okay, so just give them a try if you want to do some stuff. Some of them are pretty straightforward. Text box border, for example. You can try those. You can also, if you want a more systematic way to do it, you can go over here to this Oracle reference. So now we're done. And over here, what you can do is you can look up, how does this work again? Oh yeah, here we are. You can find your item. So for example, label. Here we go. So go to this class. Label, so here it is, label, style class label. Label has all the properties and pseudo class state of labeled. So again, there's an inheritance relationship going on here. So when you click on labeled, we get a whole pile of CSS properties and their possible values. So you can change the alignment of the label. Let's try that one, see if it works. I have a feeling some of these in the past have been tricky to get them to work. And this is the sort of thing that you would normally use that a lot of people would not try to memorize, that they would just use the built-in system for. So don't, sorry, they would use like a graphical user interface builder for. So don't worry about it too much if you can't quite get it to work the way you want it to work. So here we go. We'll set label style, semicolon, FX text alignment. I think it is just center. I think this will do it. There's also this FX alignment, which maybe does something different. So what I'm trying to do is align the label text to the center. And will it do it? Nope. Maybe it's just alignment. So FX alignment, center. That center seems to be a legal value. There we go, center. So you have to play around with it a little bit. So labeled has all these properties. If you look up, for example, button, let's go back up to the top of this reference and do a find on button. So Control F to find it. There's your button. The button control has all the properties of button base. So you click there. Button base has all the properties of labeled. So really this seems to be your main set. You could try text box as well and see what's in there too. Right, so this is some other ways that you can style your properties. So let's talk about what exercise you should try. Okay, so if we go into the exercises for this week, for this part, all we've done so far is layout. We haven't made anything that actually does anything yet. So here are some layouts that you could try to make. And the way this works is we go forward with these exercises and we try to get them working. I would do the bank account manager. It's very similar to what we just did. We need a big label up here that tells us our balance. We need buttons for deposit and withdraw, and we need a text field that allows us to enter an amount. So the idea here is you start with a certain balance, and the deposit and withdraw buttons will take whatever value you put here and add or subtract it from the balance that's there. So just a really, really simple graphical user interface layout. If you want to get more fancy, and this could take you a while, you could try some of these. Here, these are just inspirational calculator layouts. We're not going to look at how to do menus or anything like that, so you can ignore that stuff. But a calculator is just a bunch of buttons laid out nicely and a text box, basically. This one has some other stuff in it. You would have to look up these components yourself, which you can easily do through the FX API. And also just by Googling it, and you'll find some ways to do this stuff. But all we're really going to do for this course is buttons, text boxes, labels, and eventually we're going to put a canvas in there as well. Okay, so give that a try, and I'll be back in the next video. We're going to take this app that we made and we're going to make it actually do some stuff.